Yes, there you go. We're here. Wait, can we do that? Like, is it like we're doing? Like, I feel like ET. Oh my God. I'm
Yep.
tired. I was really tired yesterday. I'm not gonna lie.
I've been, and this was a home race, and I've been really tired for 2 days. Like I could absolutely 100%, if we weren't doing this, I would be getting into bed.
I wouldn't be getting into bed if we weren't doing this, but only because I would be trying to force myself to stay awake. That would be the only reason I wouldn't be.
Oh yeah,
And
I'd take me a little melatonin and be gone.
yeah, remember my GIMP too? Much better, but still hurting me.
Oh yeah, the old pulled calf when we thought we won and didn't.
Yeah, I got a dead wheel, as my mom would say. Jesus. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody, yeah, can't wait to hear about that final. We're going to get to that. But before we do, we're going to talk about four wide in general before we get into the particulars of our weekend. And I do want to say one thing. This is, we definitely have some opinions with regards to four wide racing, and Lyle and I are pretty much on the same page on all of that. But we don't want this to come off as just some bash session. We're bitching and moaning. There are 12 other competitors who would die to be the runner-up at the four wides. We just happen to be guys that we're out there to win, and we had a car that legitimately could have won this thing. And yeah, and so that makes it tough. You know, that definitely makes it a hard pill to swallow. And again, we're not going to whine about it or whatever, but we are going to talk a little bit about four wide and what it is actually like to participate in a four wide race from a crew perspective, quote unquote. Okay, I'm going to wear that hat. And from a driver perspective with Lyle, because it's very, very, very different from a normal national event or any of that. I mean, it is significantly different. So yeah, so it's crazy, but we're going to get to that. So before we do that, I had a bunch of people that were asking questions as we went in. Dude, Digby, hello. Dad, hello. Zelenko, glad to see you here. Everybody, Barnalicious, love you. Thank you, brother. Jet Black in the house. Everybody that's here, thank you. We appreciate it. Make sure you comment, share, subscribe, click the links, all those things. Tell everybody that we're here. Lyle's going to share it on his page. But one of the things that people were asking about at the race, and since I have gotten a bunch of messages, is about beer money. The number of people that were at the race in Charlotte, and it's the home race, don't get me wrong, but the number of people who came up and the first words out of their mouth were nothing to do with the pro mod, but rather with beer money was insane. It was awesome.
Well, even funnier was, now all LBR or Lyle Barnett Racing apparel is sold at Hot Rod Randy's merchandise trailer, who is Bo Butner's wife. Bo Butner drives Pro Stock for Elite now. His wife and him have an apparel trailer. They have people that run that and whatnot. And I go by there like first day to check it out. And they're like, hey, people are asking for beer money shirts. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I didn't bring, of course I was out. We sold completely out at No Prep Kings 2 weeks ago. But I'm like, I guess I'm going to stock the merchandise trailer at NHRA national events with beer money t-shirts, because I'm fairly certain I would have sold as many, if not more, more beer money shirts, than I did pro mod shirts. So, which we did really well in t-shirt sales.
Yeah, big thank you to everybody that bought one.
way better than I ever thought we would. Like Bo texted me this morning and it's like, dude, we're sending you a check for this much because you sold that many. I mean, it's pretty cool. But so yes, thank you to everybody that did buy one. And
it's not enough to pay for a Pro Mod car, but it certainly helps. So thank you.
If anything, it paid for like some plane tickets or something.
Yes,
we broke even there. But
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had people bring Pro Mod t-shirts, buy the trailer for me to sign, and then immediately ask, "Hey, man, do you got any Beer Money t-shirts over here?" And I'm like, "No, but I will." So, for those that only come to ZMAX races in the fall, in September when we are back there, which is during the countdown, Pro Stock will be there, the full slate. I will have Beer Money t-shirts in Hot Rod Randy's a merchandise trailer in the fall. So and in Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be in Virginia in a couple weeks. 10 days actually. For everybody too, just so you know, NHRA has real strict regulations on how you sell apparel at their events. You can't just sell it out of your trailer. So it has to be through a vendor, a t-shirt vendor. And you can have your own trailer if you want, but obviously you got to haul a trailer and do all that junk. So Hot Rod Randy's is where Lyle's apparel is sold. And so that's why if anybody came to the trailer and wanted to buy a Beer Money shirt, even if we had them there, we could not have done that there. They get really snarky about that. So
yeah. And that's where all of the elite drivers apparel is sold, along with several others. I think Salinas' stuff maybe is sold there.
I think you're right.
Greg Anderson, like some of the KB stuff is sold there. So there's a smorgasbord of drivers. And I'm just one of the lucky ones that got into Hot Rod Randy's. So that is where you can buy our stuff. We will be at VMP, like Chad said, in like 10 days. And I will have both Beer Money and Pro Mod shirts available starting in Virginia.
And if we do what one of Lyle's buddies gave us a whole big lead on a bunch of other cool stuff that we can put Beer Money on, a bunch of other merchandise. And so look for that to hopefully be happening before too long as well, because there's some cool stuff we had no idea. I had no idea that you could get it for the price point that we can get it at, which means that they're not selling for $25 jillion for something. So yeah, dude, for sure. Okay. So for those of you that didn't, or for those of you that tuned in on Friday when we were live from the pits, thank you so much. We were really doing a live test, if you will, while we were there. The good news is we know exactly what we need to do to make that work and to be really cool in the future. Surprisingly, both Mike and Ben thought it was a great idea. And all they asked was for me to tell them when the camera was on so they could watch their language, which was great. Justin was cool with it as well. We were going to be live on Saturday. That was absolutely my plan. But unfortunately, the infrastructure there was completely overloaded. And there was just no available internet that would work. So we are working on an alternate for that so that we can bring you that live stream that we've talked about from the events. What we want to do is we want to be able to bring you that behind the scenes look, right? Where you can watch from a couple of different angles what's going on. And then on Sunday is always crazy, right? It's elimination. So you're just going to watch there. We may jump in there to talk a little bit, but it's way faster paced on Sunday. But on Friday and on Saturday, the pace is much slower because of the fact that we're in qualifying. And so there's a bigger span between, qualifying sessions. And so at that point, what I would really love to see is once we get this thing rolling and comfortable, where we can get Ben to maybe answer some of your questions that you guys have about the firewall forward on the race car, which is his department. And then Mikey to answer firewall back, questions like, what do you do when Lyle Barnett's a rear end?
You thrash for like an hour.
Yeah, exactly. So that is what we want to do. So to all of you guys that did tune in for that, that was awesome, and we did appreciate it for sure. And we've got a lot more coming. But so the weekend, let's talk through what the weekend was like first. Normally, Pro Mod gets 3 qualifying rounds. Because this was a 4-wide race, it means there are 4 lanes. They always try and give you at least 1 run in each lane. And so for this event, we got 4 qualifying sessions, which I thought was pretty cool. What do you think,
Yep.
Lyle?
That on top of of Pro Stock not being there, it opened the schedule up just a touch. I'm just trying to remember last year at the 4 wides whether we got 3 or 4 shots, and I want to say we only got 3, but honestly, I can't remember. I think that if you're going to have a 4-lane racetrack, I don't really care, if I got to run lanes 1, 2, and 3, and then in E1 I was in lane 4. It doesn't really matter to me. The track changes so much. It's not like you would go into eliminations and lane 4 is way better or way worse than the other lanes. They change between rounds of competition. Like Top Fuel, depending on how good the racetrack is or how bad it is when Top Fuel runs, can completely change the rest of the day in some cases. So not as big of a deal in my opinion. I could see some guys getting up in arms about not being able to run all 4 lanes during qualifying, but I did think it was cool that we got to run all 4, and they put us in a different lane for each round of qualifying. We ran lanes 1 through 4. And as much as getting a feel for each lane, getting a feel for the tree in each lane, and knowing where to look and how to approach it and whatnot, depending on your power adder and how you normally stage and who you're running, and vice versa. We in the turbo car don't really have a choice. There's a particular way that I stage at the 4 wides specifically, and that is when the first person turns on the bottom bulb or is fully staged, I begin to spool. That gives all of us 7 seconds to get in. Most of the time, I'm the last one in. I think every time but one, I was the last car to fully stage. And to some degree, I felt like was an advantage to us, because it would be most of the time it was somebody turned the bottom bulb on. There were 2 in very quickly after, and I was super delayed getting in, and not necessarily on purpose, but I made sure that the car was 2 boost and sounded like it was where it needed to be, and then bump on in. And I could hear several times a couple of the blower guys get up on the 2-step way early, especially if I flickered the bulb going in. So I think part of that played an advantage. And I think that with a little bit less chaos on the starting line in the final in particular, would have been an advantage there, and you would have saw us pull off the win. But it's not how that played out. And I'm glad that I've had a couple days to kind of bowl over what happened. Like if we'd have had a podcast Sunday night, I would probably just cuss the NHRA for like an hour and a half.
Right.
But that I don't quite feel that way anymore. I mean, I'm still not a fan. In general, Lyle is not a fan of 4-wide drag racing. I'm just not. And to be honest, I haven't gotten much feedback from many fans that say they do like it. I've had a couple people comment on the post-race post that I made, and say, 4 wides this, 4, all the power adders in the final, don't ruin it for the fans. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying I don't like it. Like it's from a driver's perspective, it caused a complete and utter cluster in the final. Like the final was a letdown. If you're a fan, you had to have been severely disappointed in the final round of Pro Mod. You had to have been.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Because it wasn't a drag race.
It was not. It was. Poor Stan Shelton. It was his first national event. The only screw car, the first screw car to compete. He makes it to the final.
And on paper, he was the car to beat.
Absolutely.
The previous round, he had been killer on the tree.
Yep.
The car ran a 76 or a 7. Yeah. I mean, and great people, super nice guys. I mean, they were the guys,
Mm-hmm.
and oh man,
And
I hated to see it the way it was.
our shops are less than an hour from each other. You know, like Stan's a regular customer of ours. He's by the shop at least a couple times a month. And if he needs something, we always help him working on his car and stuff, you know, and I don't blame him at all. He just simply was looking at the wrong bulb. And it's easy to do. It's easy to judge from the outside if you've never staged a car 4 wide. But like you have to really know and concentrate and get, you know, maybe your crew chief in your ear to remind you lane 3 or whoever's in your window to give you, you know, which lane you're in, whatever. I've done it enough, and before I even turn a bulb on, I remind myself. And once I'm locked in on a stage bulb, like I'm locked in, I'm good. But you know, for Stan, a lot of pressure. You know, first of all, it's his first national event. He's in the final, has the car to beat. You know, and he just looked at the wrong bulb. He rolled through. They tried to back him up. You know, when Stan
Which
backed
isn't
up,
legal, and
right?
yeah,
When Stan tried to back up, when he went to the 2-step, the car jumped through, and when it jumped through, it caused Ricky Smith to leave early. You know, and then Chris Thorne and I are sitting there on the 2-step for 11 jillion seconds, you know, and that was a starter issue. You know, it was just a lot going on for everybody, you know, and Chris Thorne and I were really, I think, the only ones on the property that knew what was going on. I still would, I mean, I think I was 24, 25 the first round. I was 19 the second round, and I was 0-11 in the semifinal, I think. Yeah, nope, that wouldn't be right. I was 25-11, and then in the final, I was 150. And I mean,
yeah,
which is the worst light I've ever had in a pro mod ever.
yeah.
But it was because
exactly.
they left us sitting there forever. There's cars taking off, people trying to back up. I think Chris Thorne was 320 or something like that.
Yeah, he was. He was 320 or 370 on the tree.
And we had a boost issue. The car was way down on boost, which is why it only went 599 at 247. Had the car just made a respectable run, we'd have won. Had I just maintained a little more concentration or whatever and been 300ths better on the freaking tree, we'd have won. You know, I mean, I lost.
Well, and also the transmission was roughly the temperature of the surface of the sun. Yes. You know, when we got back to the pit and we were all talking about it, Justin Elks, I said, he had the computer out. I said, how hot was the transmission? And he goes, 1 million degrees.
Yes.
And Justin is not a, you know, joke around kind of guy. That's just not his personality, right? But I have to say he handled it like really well. I guess the big thing that people need to understand is that the whole process of staging, when you're talking about 4 cars doing it, it's not hard to get 4 cars to light a pre-stage and stage beam. Totally easy. The hard part of that is the fact that you're still under the auto start timer, right?
Yeah.
So if you have any hesitation or screw up anything at all, you're throwing away the whole deal. And so everybody is so stressed about taking too long that, quite frankly, half of them go too fast.
Right.
And that's the problem. Now, the other issue, and this is the one that I personally have the biggest problem with 4-wide. And let me preface this by saying, I personally know some of the people that are that are the most knowledgeable on CompuLink timing systems in the country, okay, in the world. And they would not necessarily agree with me because they love these systems. But here's my problem. My problem is that the CompuLink timing system is accurate and great and everything as it is. It literally is like 1980s technology as far as the computer system. It runs on DOS. I mean, it's like literally it's hard to find a printer anymore that will connect so you can print the time slips. Like, because it's dot matrix crap, like when you were in 3rd grade or when Lyle wasn't even a thought in his dad's head, right? I mean, it's crazy. So So I believe that it is time, and there are other timing systems already out there, but I think it's just time. Like, we just need to really update this thing. And the reason that that's important is because in the final round, there was the combination of things that happened resulted in the system not working automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wouldn't work automatically, which it normally does for any pair going down the drag strip. It meant that a guy in the tower, in this case in the tower, because he's not sitting on the starting line since there's 4 lanes, had to reach over and go, oh crap, flip, and activate the switch.
Mm-hmm.
That delay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, as everybody goes, oh shit, we got to do that, definitely adds up into the, dude, seriously.
See, Otis agrees.
Yeah, Otis
He
is
says
like, damn it, I hate 4 wide.
Yeah, 4 wide stinks.
Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, the staff at NHRA, I'm sure, was as bamboozled by this whole craziness going on as every driver, right?
Right.
I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. Please make no mistake of that. But
no, and I'm not either. And I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that. And I'm not opposed to 4 wide just because I lost because of 4 wide. Like,
no.
Had I won, I would still dislike 4 wide drag racing.
Yes.
Like, it's just not how God intended.
No.
And from an entertainment standpoint, most of the people who have commented saying, yeah, 4 wide stinks or 4 wide sucks, have never even raced 4 wide. They're just fans that find it difficult to watch.
Right.
And for me, when I go to the stands, the only time that I think 4 wide is cool is at night when 4 nitro cars have the headers lit. And they're only cool if all 4 of them go down the racetrack, which doesn't happen a whole lot. So if all 4 cars aren't making the trip, you've got a pedal fest between 2, you've got one that has just blistered the field, you've got one that's, from wall to wall or whatever. Like, it's just too hard to watch, and inevitably every 4 wide event that there is, they have some kind of timing system issue, which causes this huge uproar, and I don't know, man. I know, thank you to Bruton Smith for all you've done for the sport. You've got 2 4 wide drag strips that are pretty awesome. Like we ran at Vegas in the fall, it was 2 wide, and they're beautiful facilities and really a spectacle. They're not something that you can see just anywhere. Obviously, you either got to come to Charlotte or go to Vegas. But I just don't.
Charlotte is a badass racetrack.
It is.
Like, it is a really
massive,
cool place.
Massive grandstands, concession stands underneath, huge suite area. I mean, it is state of the art. It's probably the baddest racetrack in the world, with the exception of the one they've built over in the Middle East, and probably still even compares to that. But had I won, would I say, hey, I used the 4 wide to my advantage and maintain some concentration? And, and of the 4 drivers in the final, I was better. Well, one, there were only 2 of us that our starting line procedure was right. And I was like half as good as or twice as good, I guess, as what Chris was letting go, so we were the most prepared for the situation and still wasn't good enough, just
right.
And so win, lose, or draw, I'm not a fan of 4 wide drag racing. I think that used to the 4 wides didn't count for points, right? Like that very recently, it just became a points race for all the pro categories, at least because it was such a cluster, and like people were all pissed off. They would go there. And I mean, Sydney Frigo was like the number 2 or 3 qualifier, was in my quad in round 1, and just was 227 letting go. I was 025 and Belushi was like 50. I went 82. Belushi went 80 flat and Frigo went 78 and Frigo went home,
Yeah.
And if say this was a race late in the year and Sydney was competing for a championship, like you're talking about being knocked out of contention because of just a once a year, circus, if you will. So and I'm with you on that.
they did 4-wide drag racing in the 60s, and it was done to be a spectacle. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? NHRA is in the entertainment business, and we all are just playing in their sandbox, right? But it is definitely hard on the drivers. I mean, Jose Gonzalez, who I just have to say, and we've all said it, one of the nicest guys in Pro Mod drag racing.
He really is.
Dude, that guy is amazingly awesome. He screwed up on like the second qualifier, I think it was.
Friday night. Yep.
Friday night. And he totally was like, I was looking at the wrong lights. And so, like I said, dude, what happened? And then he said, I need to pull my head out of my ass, and laughed about it. And he was, like I said, very, very, humble about the whole experience, but he's an example, Jose's a guy that's been down a lot of drag strips. And quite frankly, when he started, he was a guy that could afford to go racing, but didn't have nearly the skill at driving a Pro Mod that he does now. I mean, anybody that knew him then would agree with that, right? This guy has made huge strides because he's serious about it, and he wants to do it, and he wants to do it well. So he's not a guy that just takes this as a willy-nilly, we'll goof off kind of deal. You know what I mean? Right. And Ricky Smith, I mean, what did I say? Q1, Ricky was over there in lane 3, I believe, or 4, one or the other. And he sat there and he flickered the bulb and a couple other things. And he finally jumped in. And I said, you're going to have to watch out for Ricky, because Ricky's going to be one of the guys that could flicker the bulb, which can cause you to be screwy because we're in the turbo car and we need the most time, right? And I said it could screw everybody else up. And then Ricky was dead on for all the other rounds until that final when Stan messed him up, So, hey, we have a special guest coming on right now, dude. You did not even know this was happening. Actually, I didn't know this was happening either because I forgot to tell him earlier. But we have the one, the only, also runner-up.
There he is.
Hooray in the house. Congratulations, runner-up Top Fuel, baby.
Hell yeah.
Thanks. It's happening.
Dude, how excited are you?
Man, it was literally like the weekend of my life. Like, it was at least top 5 for sure. I mean, I got to throw in like getting married and like having kids in there too. So I'm going to go like top 5.
Yeah, that's to keep yourself out of the doghouse there.
But wait. But your wife was arguably more excited than you. And when I went to see Angie, she was way dirtier than you. She had grease on her arms. She'd been thrashing on the car. Yeah, man. I mean, it was awesome.
She was helping pack the chutes, and yeah, she was all psyched. She raced the super comp, so she's all into it too. So that's probably why our marriage works so well. But it was literally like a dream weekend. And then we got whisked away after I got to fly home on Paul's jet. So it was freaking like that was just like icing on the cake. It was rad.
That is awesome. I didn't know about that part. That's always great.
Yeah, well, I didn't really that's like one of those things you don't really like.
Right.
Broadcast, but yeah, it was super cool. Like, I'm like, is this real life? I'm like looking out the window on the way home, going like, wow, like this is like everything that you ever dream of, like last 8 hours. So yeah, I mean, my rental car ran longer than the amazingness that happened at the track. I left my rental car running for like 10 hours accidentally.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, I do that all the time with an inverter hooked to them to use as a generator for live broadcasts. They're fine.
Idea. Mine was straight accident. I pushed the button to turn it off. I guess it didn't turn off, and the rental car keys were in the lounge, which was like, I don't know, 60, 70 feet away, and it still ran. Angie got in it when we went to dinner, and she's like, it's really cold in here. Why is the radio on? And I'm like, I touched the hood, and it's like on fire. I'm like, all right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, we were just talking about 4-wide and the controversy and all the drama. And as you well know, the Pro Mod final was crazy because
happened. I heard there was I
Oh.
saw, all the boys down there having some discussions of in the midst of getting off the track, but I just heard it was wild from a couple officials, and I don't know exactly what happened. So
Yeah, we had everybody. Well, one car rolled through the beams while just trying to stage because he was looking at the wrong set of lights. Then he backed into the beams. Then everybody was staged. He then hopped. Then Ricky, which was Stan, and then Ricky Smith just left. And then the tree sat there because of the fact that had all happened. None of the auto start functions.
Oh.
So the starter in the tower has to manually turn the tree on, which they didn't do for a while. So Lyle's on the chip and Thorne's on the chip. Lyle's on the chip until the transmission starts melting out of the bottom of the car. And the tree comes down and Lyle's 150 and Thorne's 320. And they basically chase each other down the racetrack while, our car is melting to the ground. And, it was,
wow.
Yeah. So we count ourselves lucky to have runnered up on this deal, but at the same time, it's just so challenging to run 4-wide. I mean, what do you think? As you don't run as many events as a lot of these guys that you're running against. So does that make it better for you, worse for you? What do you think?
To be honest, I mean, I've ran, I think probably 4, maybe 5, 4 4-wide deals. And to be honest, like as a driver, like it's whatever. My personal opinion on the whole 4-wide thing is it's cool. I get it. Like certain fans like it. But if we had like 40 cars trying to qualify for 16 spots, it would be way more legit. Like, I just think it's kind of a bummer that we only have sometimes like 15 or 14 cars and there's not even 4 cars going down the track at the same time. And it's just confusing for the fans. And as a driver, like if you're in lanes 2 and 3, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because you got to look on the opposite sides of the tree from what you're in. And sometimes, I mean, I got caught in qualifying. Mark, the guy on the crew that brings me into the beams, like he was like, oh, he was looking at the wrong beam, and like I took a chunk stage, and then I took a real big chunk accidentally in qualifying because it was so much closer than normal, and you're looking across. But I mean, I get it. I understand why they're trying to do it and trying to gauge, bring interest to drag racing, and I mean. It's freaking loud, I'll tell you that, like going down the track. But
it is when 4 fuel cars go down the racetrack.
Yeah. I mean,
it is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's for sure badass. But like I said, I just wish that there was more cars that you could bring into the situation. But I mean, dude, as a driver, like, I mean, is it my favorite? Not really. I think it's cool that it allows like single car teams like us to have a little bit better of a chance, just because you don't necessarily have to be first. You can be first or second,
right,
to make it final. But other than that, I mean, I'm here to I'll race whatever. Like I'll race on dirt, salt, 9 lanes. Like
right.
Hell, I have a clutch pedal in the final, and it.
Well, okay, so it's interesting you say that. So one of the things that we didn't talk about, and I don't know that everybody understands, is that the way that 4-wide works, in order to still have 4 rounds, is that the first and second finisher move on in each round until the final, and then there's just one winner. So we won one of ours, right, Lyle? We won one, second in the other. Yeah.
First round we won on a triple hole shot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but we were second on one of the rounds as well. You were second on 1 or 2 of your rounds, right, Cameron?
Yeah, I believe I was second on both.
Okay.
Justin Ashley was first in the first one, and then I think Salinas was first in the second one, and then he was first in the final or whatever. But I mean, I was glad that, like, if I didn't win, I'm glad that I at least runnered up, because that just makes me feel a little bit better that, like, you weren't fourth, right?
Right.
Like, I can tell people, I went to the final and I just runnered up, like it's not
right.
Yeah, 4th-ish place,
right.
So it plays a little better, and telling people how you did and stuff. So,
well, and I said it wrong and Stan's right on here. There's 3 rounds, but in order to not just have 2 cars in the final, so that it keeps it being 4, they have to let 2 move on, and it gets confusing for sure.
It does get confusing for like the for the fans sometimes, and the scoreboard. Like my crew guys didn't even know that we won one of the rounds because like the first round actually something blew through the beams or whatever, and nobody really knew who won. I didn't know who won when I pulled off the track. They originally said I lost, and I'm like, well, I didn't see anybody, and Justin was next to me. I didn't see anybody else, so the other guys must have smoked the tire. So it was kind of, I mean, some of the officials were even kind of confused, but hey, whatever. It ended up on my side, so
oh hell yeah,
stay long. I don't care.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that's that one is true. I'm glad you brought that up because we were on the starting line, like legitimately asking officials which one is us in this pair. Are we, if we're on the left side in 1 and 2, is 1 the top or the bottom, and then the numbers, you got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and one of them lights up and flashes and the other one's solid. And I'm like, is the flashing one first place or second place? Like, I was confused. Now, I wasn't in the driver's meeting and you guys were, so I know they probably covered that, but I was like, which one is me? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I mean, even in qualifying, like it was kind of a crazy. In Q4, we were in line to run if we had to, but we weren't going to if we didn't do. And literally, Kyle Wurtzel goes 80, 85, and that's what we ran. So it went to speed, and everybody was like, "Oh, I don't know," and like we're supposed to be rolling into the water box, and no, it was a mess. And then they said Krista qualified, and she went 92. It was. And then poor Anthony DeCero, they were trying to interview him, and they're like, "Hey, congratulations for bumping in the show." And he was like, yeah, no, we didn't."
Oh no!
I'm like, poor guy,
Oh, that sucks. Yeah,
he recovered well. He said it was a good 92 for they were trying to figure Krista's car out and stuff. So it was cool that it worked out. But I mean, yeah, I felt bad for him. But yeah, and then we were trying to figure out like, well, shoot, like, do we run or not? And I'm in the car and I can't see hardly anything because the sides are so high. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Strategically speaking, Cameron, do you guys in the 4-wide deal, do you load, do you guys run a little extra fuel or anything? Because I know that in the state, it's super crucial time wise on how long you guys have the fuel pump wide open. And also on the clutch as well, because I know you have to come off of the pedal and whatnot, but do you take extra measures with the chance that it takes somebody an extra few seconds to go in? Like, is there anything that you do different when you take a car to the starting line at a 4-wide race as opposed to anywhere else?
Not really. I mean, you could put a little bit more fuel in it just because it's kind of cluster up there. Somebody's bound to accidentally, and not mess up on purpose, but it's just, there's just so much going on. And like you said, that all these cars are so critical and time wise. And, like I felt bad in the final because, my clutch pedal, like it broke the linkage. So I couldn't really put it in gear. I mean, I probably could have, like I could have found the stop, but I didn't want to not get it in forward. So they came and pushed me back. So I felt bad, they had to run there for a little bit longer. I mean, they hustled poor Todd and, Mark and everybody. But even still, like even 15, 20 seconds. I mean, you got to imagine these things
different. Yeah.
Fuel so fast. So, I mean, I would say just a little bit more fuel. But as far as staging, everybody seemed at least this weekend, pretty on it. Like from pre-stage to stage. Once everyone's pre-stage, everybody kind of counts their 1,000, 2,000, and roll in. So, I mean, seemed to be pretty on point, but.
And I think part of that is because in the fuel cars, you're all the same, right? So all the cars are going to have the same combo, the same staging procedure, etc. Pro Mod's the only class where you might have a nitrous car, a turbo car, a blower car, and all 3 of those do things totally different from each other, which I didn't think about it until you just said it, but it's true. I mean,
Yeah, that I can see that being like a total mess for you Bromont guys.
Well, and I think it could be, but in my case, with being the only turbo car and the only one who has just a totally different staging procedure, like for the most part, whether you're in a nitrous car or one of the 3 allowed supercharger combinations, once you're ready to go in and you turn the top bulb on, the next thing you're going to do is roll in, grab the brake, and go to the floorboard.
True. Yeah.
For me, I'm turning the top bulb on and I have to spool and build boost, but I can't just do that as soon as everybody turns the top bulb on, right? Like I'm forced to wait until somebody fully stages. And then I'm forced to go ahead and spool no matter what, because I don't know, man, it takes me 4 and some change to get in, and like a couple times this weekend, we had issues with the bump box a little bit, and I was having to kind of frantically hammer the bump button as opposed to doing my normal deal, and without me going ahead and beginning the staging procedure when I did, we may not have gotten in, so,
Right.
But in the 4-wide deal, like I was saying before you came on, Cameron, I have a little bit of an advantage because the 3 other guys get in, and then it's just a waiting game. Well, how long is it going to take Lau to get in? And once I'm in, I'm already to the floorboard, and I've already got my finger on the trans brake, and I think in E1 in particular, that's what got Sydney is it did take me a little longer to get in, and it wasn't on purpose. It just had bump box issues, and it took me that long to get in. And by the time he realized I was staged and went to the floorboard, the tree had dropped, and he was just late, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of just goes to the 4-wide stuff regardless of the class. Kind of like, hey, man, like, we're all just trying to cut each other slack. Like, it's not.
Right.
It's no, like, burn downs or going in deep.
No.
Like, it is kind of is what it is. Like, like Steve, like Torrance, he went in, like, because I raced Haddock's car in Vegas, and first round, he went in deep, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, dude, shit happens. Like,
Right.
Whatever, man. Like, it's all good. Like, he's like trying to figure out which tree to look at. So,
yeah.
Hey, my dad is actually on here, Cameron, and he asked, how much fuel do you guys need for a run? So how much fuel do you put in the thing?
Usually it's like, say like 16 gallons, like ish, depending upon what happens, what you're doing. So,
yeah.
There's a video floating around somewhere, and it may be on YouTube, and it's kind of like a see-through version of a Top Fuel system.
Oh, yeah.
The pump running at full get up, and how
it's
much
like a fire hose.
fluid and it is unbelievable how much fuel is pumped into. I mean, I know it may not burn it all, but Jesus Christ, man, it is unbelievable how much fuel those engines consume in a pass. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And times 2 pumps, it's great.
Yeah. What is the gallons per minute on those pumps?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't either. That's why I said I don't remember.
I knew you were going to ask me that too, because I think I did a YouTube video when I was at Raceback about it, and I can't even remember off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, it's like, I'll put it.
No, 120, I think.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how fast it could empty a 55-gallon drum. Like, right now.
120 gallons a minute.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Like, don't quote me. Like, I don't want to get on, like,
yeah. Right.
Lying about how, Cameron never doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But I'm pretty sure the 120 off the top of my head.
I'm going to look it up, too. It says, over 100 gallons per minute is the one thing I just saw. So, you are correct. The thing is, like, Worsham's and, Scotty Palmer and several other people now have the margarita machine that runs on the fuel motor. And the Worshams were the first one to do that. I think you should do Ferray's pump service, and you should just have a trailer with a nitro motor on it and a fuel pump that's hooked up, and you can like pump people's swimming pools out in a hurry and shit. Like,
Whatever.
Dude, I guarantee you that if you did that and you just had a GoPro going the whole time, your YouTube channel would make you enough money to run a 2-car team, one for you and Ange to drive.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Now I know you're doing class right now. This is awesome.
sorry for the DAs and grinders, but my students.
Oh, no, you're good, dude. I know you got to go, and we appreciate it. So whenever you got to go, roll. But so what's the chances that Mrs. Foray will ever get in a fuel car?
She could do it as far as like, physically do it. Like I have no doubt that she'd be good at it, but she doesn't have any desire. She said she'd drive a fuel. Like she may potentially get her a fuel license, but she's having so much. She loves Super Comp, and she's having so much fun in that. I don't think she said she doesn't want to deal with all the like sponsor and like all the ups and the downs of like it's a mess. She's like, I already got to keep you from wanting to jump off a bridge.
Right. Dude.
Really want to go down that path. So and we're building her a brand new Super Comp car right now. So she's pretty happy with that. But she does have some interest to either drive. Her dad has a Nostalgia Nitro funny car, so she has thoughts of maybe driving that one day, or getting an A fuel license just to say she did it. So
yeah,
cool. I had no idea the ups and downs that came with the pursuit of sponsorship until I dove off into this, and I'm not trying to do it at the level you're doing it at, into the pro mod world. And it's literally it's the biggest stressor in my life. Like, I mean, my wife is super pregnant with our first kid. She's due any week now.
Awesome. Yes.
Thank you. And, and we've got we've got a house and we're paying for all this stuff, but there is nothing more stressful than wondering, well, how are we going to make it to, Norwalk or, wherever we're headed? I mean, Jesus, man.
I mean, that was so crazy about this whole weekend because, I mean, we had a 10-race deal, like signed, sealed, and pretty well delivered on a Friday. And then on a Monday, everybody got, let go from the management team of said company. And there went my sponsorship, like all in a couple days and in a couple hours. So January, really, really hard month for me. And like a lot of people don't see it. I talked a little bit about it on my podcast, but I mean, the mental side of racing and, whatever professional sport it is. I mean, drag racing, road racing, motocross, whatever, like people don't get to see that. And it's really, really hard because you go from literally having, like for me at the time, I went from the semis, like having the killer end of the year to like, yeah, heck yeah, everything's good. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. And you're like, oh, well, now what?
You know? And you work so hard for, like for me, I worked all through the off season and I had some pretty significant funding. And I mean, like you said, signed contract, the whole 9 yards. And literally through an email on like a Thursday afternoon, they let me know that some things have happened and they are going to have to, pull back. And part of me was like, well, we've already signed a contract, but you don't want to pursue them or badmouth them or go after them for it in hopes that you can pick that back up later, so you just have to eat it,
Yeah. And in my case, like I appreciate what they did for me. Like I have no badmouth somebody that, things change and personnel changes and stuff like that, but I appreciate what they did for me. So I have no reason to badmouth them. Yeah. Right. It's a situation. Sucks, but I mean, that's business. I went to college for marketing. I understand it. Like I get it. And we just have to work really hard to find the next company that's willing to, see and show what we can do. And I'm confident in the program and the package that we have. And, it's just a matter of somebody, seeing that and want to spend.
And I'll tell you, and I know Cam, I know you know this, but, Todd, your car owner and crew chief, I've known you guys for years now, through all of our race pack relationships and all the years at the racetrack. I think the world of you guys at a personal level, professionally, yes, but I don't even care. Like we're friends and this is awesome. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And, I look at this and Todd and I had this conversation the other night at the racetrack is that, here you are, the two of you guys, right? I mean, you're both young, good-looking guys who are articulate, you well-spoken. You're as passionate about this as anybody on earth, right? I would argue that there are no two better people to sponsor in the professional ranks than you guys, because You have the ability to get your name and the name of any company that supports you out there in front of the public eye, right? And to do it where it's relevant, not where it's the bullshit. I'm a funny car driver that's name won't go said, that gets out of the car winded and just rattles off a bunch of names, but doesn't give a fat shit about them, right? Like when you say, oh my God, I want to thank Bob's House of Hot Rods for being my sponsor because I couldn't do this without him. It's the truth, right? It is not possible to do it without this help. And for me, because I'm the guy that's always trying to help you two, right? I feel like it's so frustrating to me. And I know how you guys feel about it too, but it's like, for the love of God, and when you look at NHRA drag racing today, on the one hand, I feel like they have missed so many opportunities as an organization because there are so many companies that are out there sponsoring these race teams that are owned by the guy that's driving the car. So it looks like there's a big sponsor, and don't get me wrong, they are the sponsor, right? But it's not the same. And so the Scrappers team getting Pep Boys, right? That's a big deal. Like they've got, let's just face it, they have a bunch of money. They can afford to run their race car however they want to race it. But they are genuine when he was up on the big screen this weekend going, oh my God, I want to thank Pep Boys for coming on board with our program. This is just an amazing deal. And it is. And I'm glad for them, right? I'm happy for them. They worked really hard with cars that said nothing but Scrappers and little letters on them for a very long time, you know?
Like it's hard, man. Like, the sponsor thing, and that's the biggest gripe about this sport and the industry is everybody thinks like, oh, you're a professional race car driver, you make all this money and blah blah blah. My real job, like I teach college, right? So like to pay my bills in order to go racing, and and then I like you said, like I deal with everybody tells me like, how are you not sponsored? Like, why don't you have a full-time deal? Like, this is insane. And it's like, unfortunately, there's only so many Napas and Castrals and to go around, and it's it's tough to spend. We need $3 million to really run hard. Like, if you want to run for a championship, you need a couple $1 million, and go throw a couple $1 million off a cliff. Like, it's hard. So there's a lot behind the scenes that people don't see, like the normal fan, like with the business to business relationships, like trying to like put, hey, well, I know my uncle is a manufacturer of this and can save you money over here, and then the money that we take from that, we can take a percentage of that to run the car, and then you get the like. So it's not just about a sticker on the car anymore. There's so much other stuff that goes involved, and a lot of people don't really understand that, and that's the hardest part. And then a guy like me, like I don't really run in the circles that people just have like millions of dollars to just like throw off a cliff. So
come on, dude.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate for the sponsorships and the things that I have, and but it's just getting to that next level. I always laugh. I always say I have $5,000 and $10,000 to everybody that I've ever known in my entire life to death, and how I need to like $100,000 and $500,000.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't go to those kind of bars, but I need to figure out where they are because it's tough.
Well, and I have to say, this is going to sound funny, but I feel like, and I'm not in this position, so so I'm completely talking out of my ass, but I feel like if I was John Force, if I was Mike Salinas, if I was, Schumachers, etc., right? And you're getting umpteen $1 trillion from whoever sponsor. I feel like just because I love helping people so much, right? Like it's why Lyle and I try and raise money all the time for charity. It's why I do it all these other events I do with UMI and stuff, is that if you, I feel like I would want to take some little percentage of the money I was getting from these sponsors and use it to like be like, here's the GoFundMe money to Cameron, like to the guys trying to make it fund. You know what I mean? And I feel like if everybody in the drag racing community that's a pro racer that has a big sponsor was willing to just walk by the pit and throw a little money in the bucket, you know what I mean? And and then the public did the same thing, I feel like we could change the world if we really could do it. But it's so hard, you know?
Another hard thing is too, it's like you talk to sponsors and you talk to these companies or whatever, and they're like, hey, you know, I can give you, I'm just going to throw out a number. Like, you know, we're willing to part with $5,000. And you're like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much. But unfortunately, like that, like say $5,000, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
That like won't even make like one run.
Yeah,
no.
But it's like,
and people don't get
that money. Like if somebody's going to get like the money, the amount of money, that's the shame about all professional motorsports is it costs so much money. Like to go for one weekend, I mean, people don't make the money that we spend in one weekend in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like to sell that unless it's a Napa or a Pet Boys or somebody that has huge like corporate America budget, you know, multi-million-dollar a year budgets, it's tough. Yeah, you're fine. One of my students.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, and it's sad because $5,000 is not enough money to actually, to pay for all of the expenses required to make one run in the Pro Mod car.
Yeah.
Let alone the fuel car, you know?
And that's an unfortunate situation, but that's just the side, and that's no one's fault.
No.
What it costs. And, you know, and those are the hard, I had a meeting with a potential sponsor like 3 weeks ago. And I literally straight up, I was at the point, like, I just didn't really want to like sell it anymore. And I was like, look, it's this much money a weekend. And like, if that's like a sticker shock to you, like, we don't even have to, I'm not trying to like waste your time.
Yeah, right.
And he was like, no, I appreciate you even saying that. He's like, no, we're good. Like, we can handle that. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, well, let's continue, you know, but
right.
I don't want to waste the guy's time. Say, hey, can I have $100,000? And he's like, well, I can give you $500, you know,
right.
Which,
yeah.
You know, so, but
yeah, I mean, at sometimes you, depending on who it is you're talking to, because I've had those conversations with people who, and I've spent maybe, I don't want to say more time than I should have, but I feel as though I wasted both of our times talking back and forth about, you know, where we're going and the tracks we're going to race at, you know, and then they come at you with, well, you know, I think for this year we can spend $2,500, you know, and you're just like, man, I can't even give you a back glass, you know, a rear glass spot for $2,500, you know, and then you kind of feel like they're like, well, who the do you think you are? You know,
right.
You know, but in reality, you know, you probably break your car up the same way I do. This area is worth this much if the sticker's this large, and you know, and like when you break them all down and you spread them all out, like every square inch of that car is pretty freaking expensive, you know, and so you hate to turn any money down, but if you can't give somebody what they feel like $2,500 is worth, because to them $2,500 may be worth the seal plate on the wing, right? When in reality for us, that's a $10,000 area or whatever, you know, and that's a tough deal to balance, but it's reality, you know, and we can't sell ourselves short or undersell what we have to offer, you know, in fear that somebody's going to come along, or maybe they know somebody else and be like, hey man, you know, for Charlotte, wow, gave me the rear quarterback there for $2,500, you know, and then when they come to you and months down the road and you say, well, for 300,000, you can get the door for the year, you know, and they're like, wait, hang on a second, you know, that doesn't add up. So it's tough, man. You hate to turn any money down, but sometimes it's not even worth the conversation, like you said.
I used to get caught in that a lot when I was younger. Trying to make somebody, you know, because you always want to over deliver and undersell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to do your best for the company, but there comes a point in time to where it's like, I had a conversation about this with another driver this weekend. Actually, I have to like stick to my guns and say, look, this is what you get for this amount of space, or, you know, what you can't sell yourself short, like you said, because the next guy that comes up and says, oh, well, why'd you do it for them and not for me? And then,
that's right.
Right. Well, and for the sponsors that have been with you for a long time who are paying the higher rate or whatever. Right. And one thing that people don't understand in professional motorsports today, the vast majority, I'm not going to say it's everybody, but the vast majority of drivers are writing a check to drive the car. Now, in that check may also be their paycheck, okay? But that is the way, whether it's NASCAR, drag racing, off-road racing, any of them, that is the vast majority of professional motorsports operate that way, and it just is the way it is, you know.
I'll be the first one to tell you that in the fuel ranks, I would wager to say 85 to 90% of people driving the cars either own them or are paying to drive them, whether they have a sponsorship that they've brought in or they're just writing the check themselves. So for a guy like me, that's tougher because I don't have that opportunity. Which, now, don't get me wrong, I've always been a proponent of not being a hater when it comes to that, because
Right.
if I was that person, I'd be doing the same damn thing.
Mhm.
So,
oh hell yeah! If I had the money
yeah,
to it, I mean, I've said this a million times, Lyle, and I've laughed about this before. If I won $450 million in the lottery next week, I'll tell you what, we'd have the baddest 3-car pro stock pro mod top fuel team on the fucking planet right here. Okay. Like right now. I mean, I would call Todd and go, order it all, big dog. We're waiting on the check. Like, it wouldn't matter. And we would tell NHRA to stuff it up their ass. We were going to put all 3 of them together in our own pit area that we are paying for. Whatever. Like, we would be whatever we wanted to be, you know?
Right.
And I wouldn't feel bad about that. But, and like you said, so I don't begrudge other people that have that opportunity either.
Yeah, and I just, you got to work. But when you talk to those bigger teams, sometimes they say, oh, I can tell you, I've had those conversations many a time with a lot of the big name teams, and they say, we love everything about you. How much money can you bring?
Yeah.
And I tell them, I'll say what I can offer, and sometimes that may be, or sometimes that might be, a couple $100,000 or whatever. And sometimes obviously it just hasn't hit yet to be the right opportunity. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, I also have to make a living too. I mean, I have 2 beautiful children and a wife that I have to feed too. So I can't go backwards. So until the day that I can make more money racing than I do teaching, then we'll have that conversation.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I know that you guys, I mean, I know both of you have worked very hard for it for all these years, and and it's a struggle for sure. But man, Cam, like, you have had some really cool opportunities to race with some cool people, but the Peyton family is like, it just feels like home, I mean,
that's what's huge. And like Todd and I talk about all the time, it's like we just have fun. Like, it's just good. Like, it just flows. Like, oh my gosh, like, you owe me money, or we need this or that. Like, it's just like, let's freaking go for it. Like, let's win. Or like, but I also can feed off of him knowing, like, hey, we probably shouldn't run. I told him, like, Todd, we probably shouldn't run Q4, like, if we don't need to. But like,
yeah,
because it's a smart play, because we needed those parts for Sunday.
Right.
And it worked out. So, I mean, I love racing with them. Barry, his dad, is the coolest dude on the planet, and I love making him proud. And, I love working with Todd and his brother Tony and the whole team. Their crew that has been together, they're all Canadian, and they've all been together for so many years. So they know what they're doing. Like, sure, maybe a a part-time team, but it's not a part. They know exactly what they're doing. Have everything that you need to be successful. So I'm very grateful to be over there, and hopefully I can do my part and bring a big sponsorship, and we can show the world what they're really capable of. So,
dude, runner up again at the Four Whites. I mean, come on, nothing to sneeze at, dude. It won't be long till you're gonna have one of those little statues sitting right there.
Absolutely, and you bet. Class with me. I'll be sitting right here.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh, don't let me fool you. I slept with these boys back here for a couple of weeks each. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Still in college, I took my one of my professors was like, he knew I raced. He's like, "What? You didn't even bring in the trophy?" So he sat in there and sat on the desk. I took it to class. They're like, "What?" And it was cool. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Cam. I know you have students asking for stuff, dude. Go get back to work. Seriously, thank you for joining us. Anytime, dude, you want to be on the show, you are welcome.
Yeah, heck yeah. I appreciate you guys, and Lyle, congratulations on your big
Thanks, man. You as well. And will you be in Virginia?
No, maybe not with the Peytons, but maybe.
Gotcha.
I highly doubt it. I might be in Epping, but hopefully back in with Peytons and Bristol is the plan, as long as we can put a couple bucks together. So,
Sounds good.
Out there, and you want to sponsor Top Fuel Car, Bristol place, baby.
Yep.
Look me up. So. We'll see. Yeah, I'll see you guys down the road, and thank you guys for thinking of me. And yeah, let's keep the dream alive.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cam. See you later.
Take care.
Bye. That guy is awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, he's like us. I mean, this is the real deal. Nobody's more passionate about it. He has done everything humanly possible to race that fuel car, just like you're doing with the Pro Mod. And it's just cool to see him successful. I was so stoked that he was in the final and you were in the final. It was just so neat, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to touch on it when he was still on here. But in a similar situation that he's in, Pro Mod, the majority, if not all, are self-funded, or they own a business and this is their golf game. And none of them really care. I'm not going to say none of them, but there's some or several that don't really care about the whole limelight deal.
Right.
And are just there it's like their golf. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not downing them for it being kind of like their golf game,
No.
like it's just their hobby, but for somebody like me who is 100% dependent on finding the funds to make it race to race, like I need that. I need for the final round, at least, if not a couple rounds, or the whole race would be awesome to be shown on FS1. We need the general public that's not coming to the racetrack to see us and see our cars and get to know us as drivers, and not just the face behind a helmet in a race car, to know who we are. Like I need that, and for us to sell the sponsorship at the dollar amount it cost for us to run these cars week in and week out. Like I'm in pretty, I'm not going to say desperate, but dire need, I guess, of sponsorship now. Like I'm going to need it to make the rest of the year. I've got irons in the fire and we're having conversations, but I don't have anything on paper, and damn sure not enough in the bank account to go the full length. So, in the same boat as him, if we can scrap the dollars together, we're going to make a run at the championship. We're second in the points right now.
Yeah.
Behind Chris Thorne. And we've definitely got a race car and definitely got a team that can compete for the remaining 8 races. And I do think that if we can put it together, we'll be there in Dallas to wrap this thing up and hopefully a championship, but I'm in the same boat. Like we've got to find some funding and it's becoming more and more difficult.
It is. And, Stan Waxberg's watching and he says, Matt Hagan said he was always chasing sponsor dollars with Don Schumacher Racing. He said he doesn't at Tony Stewart Racing, which is interesting to me. And I don't know why that is, but I don't know if Tony's just got a bigger sponsor program, than Schumacher did or what have you. But, it's cool. It's cool to hear. I think Matt Hagan's a good dude and he, obviously is passionate as anybody about this, but, he's another guy though, that while he has a successful business at home and they raise cows and they have all of their ranch, he's not willing to spend all his money to race instead of, taking care of his family, So, Mitchell Gunner says, Lyle, they need to make Pro Mod a pro class. They run pro stock motorcycle on a limited schedule. I think he's insinuating that, so you could run Pro Mod on a limited schedule as well and still have it be a pro category. Technically, Mitchell, they refer to Pro Mod as a pro category, but we all know that it's sort of like it's next door
it's
to
sportsmanish. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like right next door to the pros. It's like they're the transition class between pros and sportsmen. And yeah, so.
Yeah. And it's a bit more complicated and in depth than just making pro mod a pro class. Like
Yeah.
you cannot be a pro class, or a camping world class and run a 10 race schedule.
No.
You have to run more races with that, which I know that's just as simple as adding races to the schedule, but that goes back to the majority of the pro mod racers being business owners, and family guys, and this is not what they do for a living. This is what their living allows them to do. Right.
Yes.
So
very different. That's a very different distinction.
Right. And it takes time away from the business when you're talking about running 17 to 18 weeks a year. That's that's nearly double the budget, if not double what we spend now, because of the amount of travel and, there's just so much more to it than just making it a pro class. It's just not that easy.
Yeah.
So
it goes up exponentially. Let's say you made it go from 10 races to, 15.
Yeah.
Well, the budget goes up 50% right
At
there.
least, yeah.
It's a big deal.
I would dare to say that you go from 10 to 15 races and it's another $250,000, and Cameron talked about needing a couple, 3 million to run a full season in Top Fuel. Well, for us, it's not that much, not close really, but in terms of the exposure and, and what we are able to bring in as sponsorship dollars, it feels like we're looking for $3 million when we're looking for what we're looking for.
Right.
It's on a different scale, but it's essentially the same. It's that much harder. Like, we're not getting Pep Boys. Pro Mod's not getting Napa. We're not getting Castrol. We're not getting Peak. We're not getting Monster Energy. We're getting, maybe some construction companies or the B2B deal is a big part of how we try to get sponsorship. Pete Merkel, who does a lot of that stuff for me, is big on the B2B deal. And that is I'm not going to say an easier way, but it's an easier way for us to try and generate funds for the race team, because we're not just going to these people, like Cameron said, and just holding out our hand and asking for 100 or 200 grand. We're connecting the dots between manufacturer and retail or however, and taking a cut, essentially. So,
and if like Cameron, said, $3 million, if you had the absolute budget you just would dream of having, $3 million to run a Top Fuel car with a pro mod, that's a $750 or $750,000, kind of.
And at $750,000, we're doing really, like, I'll be honest, if I could find $500,000 a year, like, we would be good, right?
Yes.
Like, that would cover it all, right?
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you what it does cost, and that's real. Like, there may be some of the lower budget teams that maybe spend like $400 a year, but like, if you're going to run the full season, travel the full circuit, go for the championship, run the car hard, replace the parts when they're supposed to be replaced, or soon after in some cases, that's what it costs. Like diesel fuel. I was coming down the interstate and I almost made a Facebook post about it, but everybody's doing it. And I saw the digital sign say $5.78 for diesel. And I'm like,
yeah. Well,
how?
and here's the thing. So we'll use your car as the example, right? So Justin Elk's always trying to go fast, trying to go as fast as you need to go to win, right?
Yep.
He has faith in you. He knows that he's got a couple hundredths in the bag when you're on your game like normal, that he doesn't need to push the car for that extra couple hundredths, right? So, but with that said, last season we had, you have a spare motor in the trailer at all times. Last year, we had to use that spare motor in order to get the win in Dallas. This weekend, blew a rear end out of the car, and I mean, destroyed a ring and pinion. I assume the center section and the spool are okay, but destroyed a ring and pinion. Wiped out a $15,000, M&M. I believe you guys are M&M, right?
Yep.
Yeah, M&M transmission, which is a Turbo 400 that, is 15 grand new. It won't cost that to repair it, but it's going to cost a few $1,000s. And it's, all those things, they add up. And when NHRA changes rules for the rule package, then sometimes that requires more parts, right?
Yep,
you guys recently changed the ECU, or not the ECU, but some of the things that go along with it. You changed the dash in the car.
Yep.
You went to some Rife sensors.
Put some Rife sensors on that, dude.
Yeah, and the Rife sensors, that's a longtime sponsor, Motion Raceworks, Rife sensors, TBM brakes. So that's great. They were able to give those parts, but make no mistake, there's still a crew of guys at the shop who had to rewire parts of that car for those things, right? I mean, all those things add up, and it just costs money. And getting everybody to the race, and keep in mind too, your crew, right? You got Mike, you got Ben, you got Justin. You work with them during the regular week.
Right.
There's no day off. Like Ben and Mike were in the shop on Monday, working on customers' cars, getting the truck unloaded, handling other deals. Like Anthony, who's normally with us on the road, was not there because he was tuning at the PDRA this weekend. Yep. So, I mean, there is a ton of stuff going on the entire time.
Right. And this weekend, is the cheap, well, with the exception of the fall race in Charlotte, which we're very lucky. 2 races a year. All of my crew stay at their own houses. There is really no diesel fuel, we fill up the truck to come, but we drive 40 minutes or something like that by the time right. You go the long way and not go through the little backcountry roads that you can take to get to ZMAX. But by the time you take the rig the long way, and we had very minimal expense, this past weekend. And fortunately for us, that's twice a year. Right. Some of these guys don't race at home. Like if they are going racing, which for the rest of the year, with the exception of the fall race in Charlotte, my guys will be in hotels. We'll have, a couple grand in diesel fuel and food, like the expenses add up. But I mean, that's kind of some of those, they're not hidden costs, but they're not thought about from people like Cameron say that, like, well, you're a professional race car driver, you should get, millions of dollars and whatnot. There's all these costs that you just don't consider, that cost a lot. Like I grew up with, guys going racing with me that didn't make a dime. They just did it because they wanted to go to the racetrack with us, and when beer money goes, for the most part, that's the way it is. It's just a bunch of my buddies that want to go help us, and, and we go and we have a good time. And very rarely do we stay in a hotel. If we have to go somewhere overnight, I'll take my motor home and we all pile in there like sardines, there's people laying everywhere. And but, when talking about racing the Pro Mod, most of the time, me and you and my dad, Tammy, Melissa, we all fly in, and Justin flies in, and Ben and Mike take the rig. And like, there's a lot of expense outside of just racing that go into making this happen, and that's probably a third of the battle, and that's just, those are other opportunities where if people are wanting to sponsor, it's not necessarily that we need you to just cut us a check, like, fuel cards for the rig or picking up hotel rooms and flights. There's all different ways that we can be helped and or sponsored, that would get you real estate on the car, right? It's not just paying for rods, pistons, fuel, and the wear and tear on the racetrack going up and down the track. Now, granted, that is the biggest expense. Is every time that car goes to the starting line, it's $5,000 or what, $7,500 or whatever it is when you average it out. But there's a lot more that can be done behind the scenes as far as sponsorship, where the sponsorship dollars go.
Yeah. And that's a great point. The truth of the matter is if somebody had, you know, I don't know, 500,000, probably 750,000 to 1,000,000 miles. I'm going to say 750,000 air miles, like on American, that they wanted to donate. Like that would probably cover a ton of the flights for the year, right? Maybe not all of them, but it would be a big chunk, right? That's real money. I mean, and especially right now, because the airfare is stupid. I mean, my ticket today is $714 to get to Richmond, which sucks, but there's no way around it. I mean, the airline tickets have been going up and going up and going up because jet fuel is the same as diesel. It's going through the roof, So, Mike Zelenko is asking a question. I know we're getting about ready to cut this thing off, but Zelenko says, who decides rule changes? And in this economy, they should back off costly rule changes.
Well, I mean, the NHRA tech department ultimately, they are the final say in rule changes, but there's two ways to look at that though. They should back off on rule changes so that there's no extra cost on the teams. Sure. But if you've got a combination that is running away, they are just way out front. They're winning every single race and they've got the field covered by 500 or 600 to a 10th. You'll lose the bottom half. Like if let's just say that Stan Shelton's screw car came out and, Justin Bond was on the pole this week with a 574 and Stan Shelton went 564, right? And just had Justin covered by a 10th and had me covered by a 10th and a half. And the NHRA said, well, to avoid any additional cost this year, we're going to leave the rules alone for the year. You guys just have what you have. What's the point in me going? Like, I'm not, there's nothing I can do with that. I can't just turn the boost controller up or do anything, and we do it because we love it, but we're also doing it to be competitive and to go after a championship. And you want to talk about it being hard to sell sponsorship now, try selling it as in, well, we're going to run the rest of the year, but we're running the slowest combination and we're not going to win. We may not make it past first round, like that. It doesn't work, so
no.
The NHRA has to do what they have to do to maintain parity. And it's such a tough line to toe, I guess you would say, but it's what has to be done. And when rule changes have to be made, it just is what it is. And I guess you could lose a couple if you make a rule change that's going to cost them a couple $100,000, but if you just let one combo run away, you may lose, half the field. So,
and I would argue that most of the rule changes in recent years have not been something that would cost a team hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because it's trying to rein one in, or they give somebody, like you go, okay, we're going to leave the Pro Charger combos alone, but we're going to give the turbo guys a couple pounds of boost that they're allowed to do. Because if you don't know, there are maximums on boost. What's the maximum now?
33 pounds.
Yeah. Now, and I will tell you, I remember very well when NHRA lowered the boost maximum to 43 pounds in Las Vegas. Oh, dude, 6-7 years ago. And now it's down to 33 pounds, which shows you how much more insane these cars are because they're quicker and faster than they ever were then.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and there's in general, overall, the turbo combination, the combination that I run does need a little bit of help. We are a little bit behind, and the NHRA is, they're looking at all the combos, they're analyzing data, we're not just one of those push to the wayside classes that they just kind of look at every now and again.
No,
I know for a fact that they were analyzing data yesterday, from the weekend and trying to figure out, ways to bring the combos closer together. I feel like we're really close. I do think we need a little bit of help. We're this weekend, I think we could have went 79 or 78. You know, and for the most part, everybody was 74 to 76 that was running up front. There were some 77s and 78s, but for the most part, we ran in the 80 to 85 range, you know, depending on the time of the day and, you know, and what was going on the racetrack. But for the most part, I think they're really close. And I think that overall you'll see some tweaks here and there, maybe some weight changes or small things. But I think overall for the rest of the year, you're going to see Pro Mod kind of stay where it's at. I think we're in a good spot. The class, even though it doesn't look like it is healthy. The committee that has kind of came up on the side to help find funding and whatnot, we are fully funded for the year for the most part. Right now, the NHRA Pro Mod is the richest and best paying Pro Mod sanctioning body in existence. They may not pay any more to win, but no sanctioning body pays back like the NHRA Pro Mod Series does, you know, and a huge thank you to Fuel Tech. Louis DeLeon, Anderson, all those guys at Fuel Tech stepped up as presenting sponsors for the year. One of Doug Winter's sponsors, D-Wagon, they stepped up as a presenting sponsor for a shootout deal we're going to have later in the year. Most of the races, Adam Lambert and the guys at PRS were presenting sponsors for the 4-wide race at Charlotte this past weekend, and a huge thank you to those guys. Some companies in the industry have stepped up to sponsor the Pro Mod class. So for all the rumors out there that say these NHRA Pro Mod guys are racing for no purse, that's not true, and that's not true at all. We are funded. We are racing for a decent purse. They're paying way back. And that's kudos to the NHRA and all the guys behind the scenes that have worked hard to get us there. So let's put it to rest that there is no purse to race for in NHRA. That's not true.
No, because there are, well, at least 3 or 4 or 5 of the guys that are racing currently that would not be racing if there was no purse.
Yeah. And what kind of set that tone was in Gainesville. There was all these rumors that we were there racing for nothing, which when in fact we weren't. There was a purse to race for when we were in Gainesville, you know, and there just wasn't
a title sponsor.
Right. And there hasn't been much publicly released by the NHRA or anybody associated to let the fans, you know, and the people who are still continuing to spread these rumors, to let them know that that's not true. But that will be coming in the coming weeks. And they'll let you know kind of more about what's going on. But for right now, the most important thing is that Fuel Tech and D-Wagon have stepped up as the presenting sponsors for the class for the 2022 season. Adam Lambert, the guys at PRS, just were the title sponsor for the 4-wides. We have a title sponsor coming up that will be released for Virginia, Norwalk, you know, on into Indy. Like most of the races are covered. So, you know, I think it's important that people know that. And hopefully as that starts to come out, it will bring some bigger car count. We were down a car from a full field this past weekend. And I truly believe that was hangover from the rumors that kind of sparked up in Gainesville. You know, and I think it's important, you know, that whether it comes from here first or not, that people know that's not the case. Like we're racing for money and it's real money. And the NHRA Pro Mod Series is alive and well.
Yes. Because it's important in order to be able to get sponsorship, because while the purse is alive and well, no Pro Mod sanctioning body pays enough that winning would cover your year of racing. That's that isn't for any of the categories. It isn't that way in Funny Car. It isn't that way in Top Fuel. It isn't in any of them.
The only way you can do that is if you have a shitbox Fox body and you hit local no prep races. Ask me how I know.
Yeah, because the only race car we know that pays everybody to race it is Beerman.
Yes.
And it's when it's printing checks. They just ain't big enough to pay for a Pro Mod yet.
That's right.
Okay, I haven't heard this. Doesn't mean it's not true. I just haven't heard this. Brad Furman says, has anybody else heard about NHRA wanting to increase chassis tube wall thickness?
I have not heard that.
I have not, but that doesn't mean it isn't the case. I just have not heard that. I will say that if that was happening, they would, I would think, going to give them some credit on this because Lonnie Grimm is the national tech director and we know him. I think they would try and handle that very delicately because like when they decided on the titanium tunnel upgrade that had to happen, and they just snapped their fingers one day and said they had to do that. And that was a $50,000 retrofit in a race car at the drop of a hat. That made everybody go, whoa, 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 whoa. So I think if they changed the rule and it was all new cars being built had to do that, that'd be fine. But obviously they're not going to be able to kick everybody out that's run. That
Right.
just wouldn't work.
Yeah,
Like, holy crap, dude. There would be
I
a
know
bunch of cars that did not. Well,
I know of at least a couple cars running in NHRA Pro Mod right now. They're like 2018 chassis, and I'm sure there's some older than that. I just know.
oh, yeah.
You know, very few of the cars currently competing in NHRA Pro Mod are brand new chassis. I think I know of two. You know,
Yeah.
so that would be a grandfathered in overtime, work that in type deal.
It will not surprise you that Charles Wickham has got the solution. He says, I'd be wrapping all the tubes in aluminum foil. What is wrong with you, Wickman? What is wrong with you? I miss you, you dumb son of a bitch. God, I wish you were here in Texas still. But you're an idiot, but I love you. I love you so much. But God, you are so special. Oh, Jesus. Doug DeLay asking about the Moonshine missile. The missile is rocking and rolling, ready to race. Biggin has just been super busy. We actually just had this conversation this weekend about what I would love to see happen with the missile and Beer Money and Rusty, my 56 for next year's no prep season. So we're gonna see what we can do. Jim Parks, this show is not available in audio form on any of the platforms yet, but I am working on that. And I'm glad you said that. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's one step at a time with us. We are
yeah. I mean,
we can't do too many things at once.
No.
Drink beer and walk, that's about all we got.
Yeah. We did not drink enough beer this last weekend. Although
Dude,
I would have been way more tired.
But I'm telling you, like I don't know when we would have had time.
I know.
Like by the time we've raced all day and done the things that we do throughout the day at an NHRA national event, like when the day's over, it's just kind of like, fuck, let's go home and just go to bed.
Yeah, we went to the Shelton's pit and like legitimately, you want to know how party we are? This is not the same as our normal. We left the pit, went over to the Shelton's pits, played cornhole, okay, and for like an hour, and then we're like, okay, we're done. And legitimately, I don't think I drank more than like 3 beers any of the time we were there. But thankfully, Bradley drank all of them for us.
Yes,
so.
He did. Yes, he and there were like concerts in the campground. There was all kinds of cool things going on, and we were just like, nope, not today. You know.
Yeah. Oh no, we couldn't do it. That's for sure. So. All right, I think that is all for tonight's show. Lyle, I think that was good. Cameron Frey, thank you again for being on with us, and all of you guys, Scott Liggett and Zelenko and Parks and Black and DeLay and all of you monkeys. Thank you so much. Charles Fort, dude, thank you. He says, by far my favorite podcast. Well, I appreciate that very much.
Sweet. Thanks,
We are going to, I'll be this weekend, will be live Friday and Saturday from Sacramento for a big money bracket race, Sportsman Drag Racing live on Bang Shift. And then the following weekend, Richmond, Virginia Motorsports Park for NHRA Fuel Tech Pro Mod. And we're going to go out there and try and win it again.
Yep. And we're going to attempt at live pit coverage, which we don't qualify till 6:30. This is a 3 qualifier race, so we don't qualify till 6:30 on Friday. So maybe and fuel doesn't qualify until after that. Like they're a night session only. So maybe, and we'll talk about it later, get, our Clay Millikins and maybe Scotty to come by and talk for a few minutes during the day. Cause you and I will be there for a little while before we have to
Yep.
get ready to rock at 6:30 that night. So we'll see.
That would be cool. Yeah, we'll see what we can make happen. Mike Zelenko is asking about the hydrogen guy. That is going to be next Thursday. Next Thursday, we are going to have on Power Shift is going to be Mike Copeland, who is going to be talking about his Magnuson supercharged LS powered 1949 Chevrolet pickup that runs on hydrogen.
Nice.
Zero emissions hot rod. Internal combustion for the win, but on hydrogen, so no emissions. And it is a very, very cool truck. So we're going to talk to Mike. I've known Mike for years. Great dude. We'll be writing some stuff up about that to run next week too. And Lyle, if you want to join us for that one, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. So so we'll be good. But everybody, thank you so much. MacFab. Beadlocks, please, 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 if you need beadlocks and or your wheels widened or narrowed while getting beadlocks, MacFab has got you covered. And of course, Motion Raceworks, which includes Rife sensors and TBM brakes. We appreciate their support always. So to all of you out there, have a great night. Don't do anything dumb.
See you later.
See you later.